Bike into work. Bit cooler, the warmer.
There he is.
Just in the nick of time, 7 o'clock. Okay, you guys ready? Okay. Good evening. Ferrysburg City Council meeting, Monday, March 7th, 2022, 7 p.m. Ferrysburg City Hall. Roll call, please.
Mayor Blease,
Here.
Councilmember Donald,
Here.
Councilmember Carlson,
Present.
Councilmember Montgomery,
Here.
Councilmember Sias, Councilmember Murdoch, Councilmember Kate.
Here.
Number 3, invocation by Councilmember Kate, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Gracious God, with thanks for the day now past and hope for the night ahead, we humbly ask your blessings to guide our discussions and our decisions. We ask your special blessings of safety and protection for the people of Ukraine in their struggle for survival. Grant them peace and security from their oppressors. In your name we ask it. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on. Number 5, public comments. This time on the agenda is for any citizen to direct brief comments or questions to the City Council. Time for public comments will be given when an agenda item is discussed. If you have a comment or question, please raise your hand to be recognized by the mayor, and after being recognized by the mayor, please give your name and address for the record and proceed with your comment or question. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Any public comment? Moving on. Number 6, consideration for approval of consent agenda. A, approve the February 21st, 2022 City Council meeting minutes as printed. B, adopt a resolution regarding leasing a portion of the premises at 17520 Ridge Avenue to Gateway Church. That's here, City Hall. C, adopt a resolution regarding leasing a portion of the premises at 17520 Ridge Avenue to Harbor Transit Multimodal Transportation System. D, approve an agreement with Republic Services to provide a 1-day residential trash pickup on Saturday, May 14th.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Support.
Okay, motion and support. Any further discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes.
Craig, one bid for the residential pickup?
That's typically what it's been the last 2 or 3 years.
Same bidder.
Same bidder.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. I guess, yep, not a lot of interest in that one. Okay, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on, number 7, new business. A, discussion, take action if appropriate to adopt ordinance 319, an ordinance to provide for regulation and control of stormwater runoff and establish stormwater standards.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd like to raise from the table the motion to not approve ordinance number 319, the ordinance to provide regulation and control of stormwater runoff and to establish stormwater standards. Support.
Okay, motion support. Discussion, we do have
Yeah.
a
At
guest.
the last meeting, there were some questions on the stormwater ordinance, so we invited Kara Decker from Grand Valley Metro Council. So she has a little presentation she'd like to show us before we have discussion.
Okay, let's do that.
If I can clear some things up. Good evening. My name is Kara Decker. I work for Grand Valley Metro Council. We are a metropolitan planning organization, and our office is located in Grand Rapids. But I'm here tonight because I work for our environmental programs department, and I serve the city in a consultant capacity to ensure your compliance with your municipal stormwater permit. So the city was initially issued a stormwater permit in 2003, and then most recently issued a new permit last October. And so I know that you guys have been talking your past few meetings about this ordinance that is a result of the new permit and some of the updates and changes that were in that new permit. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of that, I want to back out and be able to give you just a little bit of context. Through Metro Council, we also run the Lower Grand River Organization of Watersheds, which is a mouthful, so we call it LGRO for short. But we do a lot of education and outreach about the Grand River. And the main point that we're trying to get across as far as stormwater goes is that when it rains or when we have snow melt in West Michigan, that stormwater runoff goes straight into our catch basins and ends up in lakes, rivers, and streams, and it doesn't go to a treatment plant. So we do a lot of education and outreach with residents because we're doing everything we can as a municipality to protect our water resources. But it's really important that our residents understand that their actions on their personal properties can also impact the environment. I did want to, if you have time later, please check out our website. It's lgrow.org. Our organization does a lot more than just the stormwater program that we're going to talk about tonight. We do a lot of other projects. A lot of it revolves around grant funding, but things to benefit the Lower Grand River watershed. And I did bring some 2021 annual reports with me, so I'll make sure that you guys see those before you leave tonight. But the city of Ferrysburg is an LGRO member, so thank you for your participation and your support of the watershed. So the stormwater regulations come from a federal level from the Clean Water Act. And I had mentioned that the city was issued a new permit in October, and you have a permit because the city owns and operates its own municipal separate storm sewer system. We call it MS4 for short. Because you operate that storm sewer system, it means that there are separate rules and regulations that we have to follow to protect those water resources. So at a local level, that's enforced by the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE. And EGLE was out here last summer. They conducted an audit of your stormwater program, and you guys passed with flying colors. So that's thanks to Craig's administration and to Matt and the crew at the DPW for keeping you guys in tip-top shape. So you guys are really lucky that you have such a great crew out here taking care of your stormwater infrastructure. So we're gonna get into these development and these redevelopment standards, but the permit really encompasses all sorts of other things that my office helps you with. So like I said, we do a lot of public participation and outreach and education activities. The ordinance also includes illicit discharges, so ensuring that it's illegal for someone to dump something down a storm drain. The permit also talks about construction runoff control, so talking about that sediment that's stirred up when we have development and redevelopment and making sure that it doesn't end up in our local waterways. And then there are also some pollution prevention and good housekeeping things that the permit requires us to do that Matt is really in charge of implementing. So, inspecting and cleaning catch basins, making sure that streets are swept so that we're reducing that pollution to our water resources. So while the city of Ferrysburg is special and unique, you are not alone in having to follow these stormwater standards. So This is a map of the Lower Grand River watershed, which is outlined in that lighter green color, and there are 23 different municipalities that have a stormwater permit, just like Ferrysburg does. These are villages, townships, even the Road Commission and the Water Resources Commissioner have a permit and are following the same standards that we're going to talk about tonight. So the city of Grand Haven had just adopted this new ordinance 2 months ago, I believe. Spring Lake also 2 months ago. Fruitport is still waiting on their new permit, but right there with you guys. Okay, so I said that there were some changes with this new permit that was issued in October, and most of those changes are regarding development and redevelopment standards. So at your past few meetings, you guys have been talking about this stormwater ordinance, and hopefully I can answer some of your questions tonight. If you're really curious, all of Ferrysburg's stormwater documents related to the permit are on Elgro's website. It's some great light bedtime reading material if you need some later. And the Ottawa County, like I said, Joe Bush's office, the Water Resources Commissioner, he has had these new stormwater standards in effect since Christmas of 2020. So they've been following them already for a while. So what this looks like for development and redevelopment is we have new requirements regarding water quantity and water quality. So if we are going to develop a site, we're going to add a lot of hard impervious surfaces to that by, adding a parking lot or building a building, and all of that extra stormwater runoff that's created during a rain event, it has to go somewhere. And so what the state is telling us that we need to do is that we need to retain most of that on site, and we need to treat it to reduce the pollution, mostly sediment that's in that runoff. And then we need to try to keep it on site and infiltrate it on site so that we're not sending a giant slug of new water downstream that could degrade downstream habitat. We are not changing flood control standards, so your current ordinance already outlines flood control, and we're not changing any of that. The other thing that this does is it increases oversight of private stormwater facilities. So what that means is a developer will come in, and if they develop something, they will sign a maintenance agreement with the city in perpetuity, so they will be responsible for that new stormwater infrastructure for forever. And they'll have to make sure that it's maintained. And then this ordinance gives the city some regulatory authority to make sure that those are maintained, and so that then you're not financially responsible for that in the future. So what this looks like in practice is hopefully using a lot more green infrastructure practices. So green infrastructure is a way to kind of mimic nature to make sure that we can treat and infiltrate that runoff on site. So these are things like bioswales or rain gardens, maybe green roofs in some cases. And I realize that, a rain garden isn't going to solve all of our stormwater issues. And so the Elgro Stormwater Ordinance Committee has been a leader of municipal stormwater managers in the area, and we've been working over the past few years to come to an agreement on these standards with Eagle so that everybody's happy with what that solution looks like. So we have gotten an agreement with the state to be able to offer some extended detention options, which is looks like some of the retention or detention ponds that you would normally think of when you think of stormwater management, but making sure that we can still infiltrate the maximum amount of water possible in place, and then make sure that we're releasing that at a slow rate so that we're not degrading downstream habitats. So this is also kind of what it looks like in practice. Instead of just having a giant blacktop parking lot, we're literally gonna hope that it looks more green in order for those plants to help us soak up some of that water. So what the permit says is that you need to adopt a new ordinance. And your current ordinance is Chapter 158, and those standards currently outline the outdated Ottawa County standards. And so it's going to be a repeal of that, and then you're going to replace it with this ordinance number 319. And like I said, it's consistent with others in the area, in the watershed, and with the Ottawa County standards. So that's all I have for this, but I would be happy to take any questions.
Yes.
I guess I'll start.
Okay.
Start the process here. I've got a lot of problems with this. Okay. Adopting a new ordinance over one that is already in existence and has been proven to, you said we passed our inspection?
Did, yeah, yep.
And, with the old ordinance. The reading I've read is we're not required to adopt a new ordinance as long as we meet the standards of the permit. And I think, and also in ordinance 158, Ottawa County takes on some of the responsibility of the stormwater runoff and in the costs and maintenance. And under the new ordinance, that falls under the purview of, it would become Ferrysburg's responsibility. And we all know what happened the last time Ottawa County gave us a bridge and how that really worked out real well. The green infrastructure, it's great. I love greenery. However, I'm looking at a great cost of increase in expenditures. If we redevelop our right-of-ways, then we're going to have to pay more money to put in the drains and the infrastructure to catch the water runoffs. And like I said, I've not seen anything that says we are required to. Phase 2 was intended for, I believe, for small cities. There was a list of 800 cities, and I did not find Ferrysburg in that list. And I don't really, if we're not, the state's not coming in and says you have to do this, or you'll suffer major consequences. Okay. Out of your own mouth, you said we passed. It worked with the old thing. Why fix something that isn't broken? I think we should stick with our current storm ordinance. Yeah, if we can incorporate some of the green infrastructure in our when we redo the bike paths or our roads, I'm all for it. But like I said, it's going to relieve Ottawa County of some of their responsibility in our stormwater system and just add that cost onto us. And right now we need to, especially now, be very cautious about any major expenditures that we set out there or commit our future citizens to pay for. Some parts of Act or Ordinance 158 are actually more restrictive than the new ordinance. The new ordinance states that it's 1 acre or more, and in the old ordinance there is no restriction. It's any development. So I will. Pretty much I got all at this time.
Okay, any other comments from the council?
I would like to respond. I was.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think you make some excellent points. I will say that the audit this past summer was reviewed to the old permit because the new permit had not been issued yet. And so if the state was going to come in and do an audit today, you would be in non-compliance because you have not updated this new stormwater ordinance. So it's a legally binding permit. The state would be able to take legal action against the city, and what that would look like, they would issue a notice of violation. We would have to enter a consent order, and then they could issue fines up to $25,000 a day for each day that this ordinance was not in place. So that's just the legal aspect of the ordinance. I guess as far as your current ordinance is not up to the standards of the current Ottawa County Water Resources Commissioner. If you put those to his standards, next to what you guys have in your ordinance right now, it doesn't match, it's outdated. I am really glad that you read both of the ordinances, and that if you found some things that are more stringent in your current ordinance and we want to include that in the new ordinance, I think that's fantastic, and we should do that. And maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and include some of those things. The other thing that I guess maybe I would like to know from my position, and maybe this is a question for Craig, sorry to put you on the spot, but as far as when, you know, you guys have a planning commission, when a developer comes and they have a new site and they're proposing it to you, who does that review down the road? Does everything go to Joe's office, or does that go to a city engineer for review? Yep, so a city engineer. So you're not, you know, if there's a project that involves a county drain, Mr. Bush's office, they're all over that, and they'll review that for you. But yes, it does put some responsibility on the city, and you do have responsibility right now to protect some of your water resources, and you're doing that. The ordinance that you have in place right now is a lot more than a lot of other communities had in the first place. So I really would like to commend you and laud you on that. Which is great, but we need to make sure that this is updated to these new federal requirements.
Clarify on the cost. Anytime a developer comes in with a development in the city, it typically falls underneath the city's escrow ordinance. So they pay a deposit, and we use that deposit to pay for all review for the planner, the city engineer, city attorney for that development.
Greg, when we talk about cost shifting from the county to the city, we'd be covered by the developmenters, that bond?
Escrow ordinance, correct. So like when Channelside was developed a couple of years ago, they had to put a deposit down, and we use that money for all the professional reviews of that project.
Yes.
I had another comment.
Okay.
You said today, if we came in with the new standards today, we would not be in compliance?
Come and do an audit today. You have until October 1st I'm sorry, the permit was issued in October. You have until April 1st to adopt the new ordinance.
I'm getting the permit. I'm talking about the physical infrastructure that we have now. If they were to come in with the new ordinance, and inspect based upon the new standards, did you state that we would be not in compliance?
You would not be in compliance from the perspective of you have not adopted this ordinance. But no, this ordinance is not retroactive to any other development. So anything that's gone through Planning Commission already, great. If you pass this ordinance and then a developer comes to you with a new site development or a new plan, then you would need to review it per the city code to the new ordinance. So no, this is not retroactive for anything. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yes.
MS4, that we have a separate stormwater program. What about the cities and townships that are not under MS4? Who covers their cost, and would it be more cost efficient for us to have whoever that outside source is take over the city rather than us dealing with the permits and the cost?
Great question. All of us in West Michigan, all of us that have permits, it's really tough. This is an unfunded mandate in Michigan. We don't have stormwater fees, right? You get a sewer bill at home. You're not paying for your stormwater to leave your property. So that's tough. I think Councilmember O'Donnell mentioned that the city has what we call a phase 2 permit solely based on population. So what's interesting is 2020 was a census year, and so I think a lot of those other communities that maybe don't have permits right now will be brought in under these regulations soon, because their population will be large enough to fit under this definition of urbanized area. So that's why you see, when I pulled up that map earlier, we have a lot of communities around the Grand Rapids area that have permits, and then our lakeshore communities also, because your communities are large enough in size and you own and operate your own storm sewer system. So because the city of Ferrysburg storm sewer system is extensive enough, you service all of your residents, that means that we have to follow these regulations. As far as some of the townships go, they don't fall into those regulations, even if maybe their population meets a certain size, because what they own as a township may just be the one catch basin on their township hall property. So they don't have an extensive system that they're responsible for servicing and maintaining.
Population and size of community and.
And the extent of your infrastructure.
And the county oversees those townships and cities
They
that
do.
don't fall under the MS4.
Correct.
But we
correct.
would not qualify for that.
You would
for
not.
The county. to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
All right.
All right, Carrie, I have a question. So is Spring Lake Village, did they adopt the new 319
Right.
ordinance?
The village has a stormwater permit. The township does not.
Okay. Because they're about the same size. They're like 2,500 residents. But so they have storm basins, catch basins too,
They do.
similar to what we are.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Yes.
An observation. I'm looking at section 1.05, page 5, where it's giving definitions. Item 8 says detention, a system which is designed to capture stormwater and release it over a given period of time through an outlet structure at a controlled rate. The last 2 springs here, we've seen much more rain than this 1 inch. And I'm thinking of Park Place condos over here behind Coast Guard Park, where who knows how many thousands of gallons had to be pumped into the storm system. I don't see detention as valuable in a situation like that. I mean, they have a detention pond that they keep circulating with fountains. And I know it's to catch the runoff from fertilizer and things like that, but it's a low spot, and water from all over that part of the city flows that way. It's the bottom point of, what, 100 acres or more, you know, of water that flows that way. And a detention system I don't see as being valuable to something like this. And I'm not arguing that, I'm just saying I don't see the point.
And you make a great point. We've seen a lot more severe storms recently, right, where we're getting a huge volume of water in a short amount of time. So even some of the rainfall data that you mentioned, even now, is outdated. And some of, if developers are going to be designing to what we have in the standards, we're meeting the standards. They're greater than they were before. It might not still be enough if we see these intense storms. That's where you're also going to rely on your city engineer to do some review and to make some common sense decisions also, right? If you have a development that's immediately adjacent to Spring Lake or to the Grand River or to Lake Michigan, there are some different things that they have to consider as the engineer, where you're right, you're not gonna have a detention basin right on some riparian property.
Any other comments?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Question I have is there a permitting system that we can operate under, just continue operating under the way we are currently?
For your old standards?
Yes.
No. Not that I know of.
Not that you know.
You've been issued your new permit that is legally binding. You are required to get that permit. You pay for the privilege of having that permit. You don't. Yeah. And I will say that all of those other communities on that map that I have pulled up, I will not say that I have not gotten any negative feedback, because many of the points that you brought up here are other things that other councils and commissions have been facing and have been asking. So you guys are right along there with them. But we are really lucky in West Michigan that we're all on the same page across the watershed. So, when I talked about this public education and outreach that we're doing, the same message that people are getting downstream in the Grand Rapids area is what they're getting out here. The same standards that they're following downstream is what we're following out here upstream.
Probably had this discussion back when we were talking about getting the permit. We kind of because we didn't have this discussion that we're having now, then we're gonna be stuck with this new ordinance that's going to have not a benefit to this community.
Discharge into the state waters, the permit's required, or else you're not gonna be able to discharge into state waters.
Really good point. If the city wanted to undertake retrofitting all of your infrastructure to make sure that you were not releasing any water to Spring Lake, the Grand River, or Lake Michigan, then we could probably get you exempted from a permit.
Environmentally appropriate action to take.
As far as protecting downstream communities, we don't have to really worry about that.
No, but you need to worry about what everyone else is doing upstream, right? And so they've adopted this, and I really am hopeful that you guys will see some benefit downstream.
We have some. You'll see this as being a problem in the future for us. It's gonna end up costing us money. But I apologize, I didn't bring this issue forward when we were talking about permits earlier. But I do maintain my motion.
Okay, any further discussion? So, yes.
The motion is to deny this?
Yeah, the motion was to deny,
Thank you.
and then support was to deny. So first of all, we have to vote on that. And then if that fails, then that means it actually passes.
We should have a motion to adopt it though if this fails.
Right, okay.
There we go.
So, all right, so let's vote on this motion first. This motion is to deny it. So,
Want a division of the vote? Or roll call? Roll call.
well, we'll do a roll call. Motion and support to deny it. So let's do a roll call vote on that first.
Councilmember Donald,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson,
Yes.
Councilmember Montgomery,
No.
Councilmember Sias,
No.
Councilmember Murdoch, Councilmember Kate,
No.
Mayor Blease,
No.
motion failed.
Okay,
Your Honor, I'll make
yes.
a motion to adopt ordinance number 319, an ordinance to provide for the regulation and control of stormwater runoff and to establish stormwater standards.
Support.
Okay, motion support. Any more further discussion? Do you want to do a roll call on this one too?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do a
Councilmember-
roll call.
Councilmember Carlson,
Yes.
Councilmember Montgomery,
Yes.
Councilmember Sias,
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch, Councilmember Kate,
Yes.
Councilmember Donald,
No.
Mayor Blease,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, moving on. B, discussion and take action if appropriate to approve a proposal from Moore and Brugink for $76,000 for design and construction engineer for Virginia Avenue, 4th Street, and Roosevelt Road.
Your Honor.
Craig, you have some updated info?
Yeah. Last year, residents passed a millage for street work in the city. And so the Public Works Department has identified a number of streets to start repairs. Those streets are 4th Street, which is by the post office box, Roosevelt Road on the north side of City Hall here, and Virginia, which connects 168th Avenue to West Spring Lake Road. Well, we asked for 2 proposals from engineers that have done work in the city, Moore and Brunjic and Parna Newhoff. And those proposals were included in your packet. I just want to highlight a couple of differences in the 2 proposals. On 4th Street, Moore and Brunjic has a mill replaced from pine to oak. Parna Newhoff has stormwater included in that area. Roosevelt Road, Moore and Brunjic has removed and replaced the existing. Parna Newhoff proposal includes possible widening of the street. Right now, the street is awful narrow. When we have parents dropping students off at Walden Green, they line up on the north side of Roosevelt Road. And then during the afternoon, when they have pickup times at 3:30 and everybody's getting out at the same time, they line up on the south side of the road. So what we're having is issues of cars heading east and west, and there's no room in the middle for people going in Roosevelt Ridge condominiums to get through, or if we need to get an emergency truck get through. So we've been talking about maybe widening the road or doing some kind of a paved shoulder on there. Both include sidewalk on Roosevelt Road. Prime Newhoff included some review of possible wetlands on the north side. Section on Walden Green's property might need some retaining wall. There's two sections of sidewalk that need to be connected. There's on the south side, or it'd be the west side of Walden Green entrance, there's a sidewalk there. On the east side, there's no sidewalk. And then there's a parcel that has no sidewalk, and then there's sidewalk in front of Roosevelt Ridge condos. So we want to connect all that sidewalk when we do the street project. Walden Green would be responsible for the cost on their property. Prime Newhoff included some engineering to possibly look at doing some parking on the north side of City Hall here. Morton Bridgick has a 6-week construction period. Prime Newhoff has a 10-week. They talked about possibly doing 2 projects, one in the fall and one next year when the school's out. This Roosevelt Road would have to be done when the school's out.
Okay, and Craig, that was my big question, is why the big difference? Because Moore and Brugink, they were 76,000. Green and Newhoff was 136,000. So I mean, that's a $60,000 difference. So I wondered why the big difference is. But one of the reasons was, yeah, it looks like Moore and Brugink said 6 weeks for their construction inspection estimate, and Preen and Newhoff were 10 weeks. So that's 4 weeks difference right there, that they wouldn't have anybody out on the site. So is that the main difference that you see in these? And then, of course, the widening street possibly and some other things?
Correct.
Because I know they're a little bid, but it looks like Preen and Newhoff. And if you look at their estimate, their proposal, it's a lot more thorough and there's a lot more information in there. I guess since we're discussing it, anybody else have further discussions?
Your Honor,
Yes.
is there any difference in the scope of work between the 2 proposals? Or is it just timeline only?
I think the scope is, Prime Newhoff was looking at doing some storm sewer between Pine and Oak, and they were looking at widening the road a little bit over here on Roosevelt. That was about it. And these 3 projects, you know, we got some kind of rough cost estimates in there. I'm not sure we'll get all 3 of these projects done. So there would probably be 4th Street, and then Roosevelt would be the top 2 priorities. And then Virginia, we might just have that in the back of our pocket in case something comes up or we have enough money. Otherwise, we'll probably do that when we do the 168th Avenue in 2025.
So, Craig, to continue, how does this fit with our planned street reconstruction projects?
These are all
going forward. Are these this year's that you're planning on doing, or extras?
These are extra with the street millage that was approved last year.
So is it going to get pulled off of, but they're on the schedule now for 2025 or 2027 or something? Or are these truly extras?
These are truly local street projects that would be funded totally by the city. No federal highway dollars or anything for that.
Well, I just find that interesting because I thought that we were prioritizing street repairs 5 years out, and then because we got this extra money, 3 jumped to the top of the heap that weren't even on our list.
The dogwood is still on our list.
Right.
That we're getting the federal dollars for that. And then 168th Avenue was the next major street to be fixed. And that's in the tip for 2025 to get federal dollars for that.
I do know Roosevelt Road is, yeah, a mess right over here. So we've had a lot of comments from local residents that live there and the school and everything. So I think, yeah, that's probably pretty much priority, I believe here.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Craig, for Roosevelt Road with the school right there, do we have school kids crossing the road to get into vehicles?
No, not to get into vehicles. We have kids crossing that come over here and use the gym and use the band. So we probably do, if we did something on the sidewalk, we'd probably try to do some kind of crosswalk at the same time.
Wondering about from a safety standpoint, I know it's really congested when they're dropping off and picking up, and what we could do to minimize any mistakes that happen.
Gregor, are we doing anything with the turnaround, the bus turnaround at City Hall? We're not touching that?
We were looking at maybe trying to do something, skinny it up or do something so we could try to get some parallel parking, very similar to what the police department's parking there.
I know we talked about on the rec commission, we got that design from Pam to do the 45-degree parking there, right?
Yes.
Is that something we could fit in at some point?
Depending on funding, sure. Yep, we want to look at something to accommodate the daycare and other people that come into use City Hall.
Right. And then as far as this scope goes, does it include the sidewalk on this side of Roosevelt?
No, it'd be all on the north side.
Okay, because this sidewalk ends at the daycare, right?
Yes.
So are we gonna put a crosswalk there, or is there any plan for that, or something, so our sidewalk doesn't just end and start again on Ridge? Okay.
Okay.
I have
Comments, Tim?
yes, please.
Okay.
Who was the, which of these companies did the North Shore Drive?
Brian Newhoff.
Brian Newhoff? Okay.
Brian Newhoff is also doing Dogwood Drive.
Problems, a lot of cost overruns with that. Came up with stuff that they weren't anticipating, and that it is according to Eagle on the north side of the road over here is wetlands, where it's not from our entryway on down and north.
And the south side or the north side? I'm not sure. I gone through area that we're possibly think there might be wetlands is directly across from City Hall on the north side.
According to the Eagle wetlands map, that is considered wetlands. From our, basically, if you go almost straight out from the main entry here, straight across the street, and then north from the street on north is all wetlands.
Some of that would probably be on Walden Green's property, yes. I've talked to them, making them aware that this project is going to move forward, and if it does with the sidewalk, they would be responsible for 50% of the sidewalk cost.
We're not and I didn't see really any cost inclusion in here for the permits and stuff for wetlands. This would not be the actual end cost of this project.
No, these are just cost estimates for design engineering.
Better luck with Moore and Brugink dealings with the city than the other company, so I would
Okay, motion of support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed. Moving on. 7C, discussion, take action if appropriate, approve a proposal from HydroCorp for $30,300 per year over a 2-year period, total cost $60,600 to conduct the city's cross-connection inspections and inspect for backflow preventers, and to authorize mayor and city clerk to sign all necessary documents.
Your Honor,
Yes.
this is just another display of state overreach with additional regulations that we have got to fund. That's all.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm gonna make a motion to, not to approve a proposal from HydroCorp for $30,300 per year for over two-year period, total cost $60,000 to conduct city's cross-connection inspections and inspect the backflow preventers. We discussed this, well, that's the motion.
Okay. Any support? No support? Okay, further discussion on this?
Your Honor,
Yes.
isn't this just basic maintenance for system? I mean, isn't this kind of, it may be government overreach, but I mean, it's still a good idea to have this conducted.
Well, yes.
I mean, we put a lot of money into our systems, and, you know, this just seems like a preventive measure to keep it up to par. And I understand that we're kind of being forced into it, but at the same time, it's good for the city.
Yes. Will?
Just a quick question for Craig. I see we're non-compliant in our last survey, Eagle survey, because of this. Are we susceptible to any fines or anything like that from Eagle because of that?
Possibly, yes. We've told Eagle that we're working on trying to get a proposal to city council to approve the cross-connection program, so they're kind of waiting to hear from us.
Requirement, and if we don't do something where we just turn it down, we're probably gonna get fined.
It's a possibility, yes.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I believe that this is definitely government overreach. And I even look at this as a violation of both the Michigan and U.S. Constitution's Fourth Amendment. If we approve this, we are going to allow this company, who does not have any control by this council or the city, to randomly go into people's houses. They don't have a schedule of who they're going to contact. Go through and check for the cross connections. I believe this is one of the things that we discussed before with this issue is when a building is built, the building inspector goes in, he checks. This is one of the things that he checks, and our building inspector does an excellent job with checking to make sure our buildings are in compliance. We don't need an outside corporation or company to come in here. I think this is something that we can do with our own internal DPW. When they go in, if they want to set up a schedule to check water mains or meters, while they're doing that, we can check it. But when a house is built, when a building is built, it has to meet the Water Act before that house can be or building can be occupied. This is a corporation that only has at this current time around 400 clients. So I think as long as we're showing that we are doing the same thing that we're doing with our commercial properties, it's being inspected, and I don't think we have to hire an outside group to come in. I think this is something that the DPW should be able to handle. It's really not that big of a deal. I know they've caught people doing some violations in the past. And I just have a real problem with just allowing people that we have no control over to go into our houses. And quite frankly, they come to my house, they're not coming in. Sorry.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Craig, I see staff is recommending the HydroCorp proposal for the 30 grand a year. What's the cost of the other proposal? The one that they're saying that they'll just do a walk-by inspection, which does not verify there is or is not a cross connection. But I'm assuming that would probably still meet the requirements to satisfy the state. Is that right?
The state, we asked the state that question. At this time it would, it will now, not in the future.
But this time it would, and what's the cost of that?
$20 per property.
Well,
Plus,
that seems to me the way to go if we gotta go with it.
and there's an annual fee, and then there's a $15.95 per report to input that data.
So what's the cost to the city if we go that with the drive-by rather than the intrude on citizens' private property price?
So if they drive by and see irrigation, they're gonna follow up and try to get inside that house to do an inspection.
Okay.
So it all depends on how many houses they can do in a period of time.
But it's a flat rate per property.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of houses have the backflow on the side of their house, right? A lot they can do without actually intruding on the customer.
A lot of people have it in their yard. Yeah.
Inspect it. Come on your property and inspect it.
Sure. Just like they
And
come
it's-
on our property to read the meters and
Yeah.
do everything.
But it is just for in-ground irrigation, correct? For people that are running sprinkler systems.
It's basically what they look for.
That's what they're looking for.
You would have to verify that you're not using city water.
So why, if I may ask again, Your Honor, why is city staff recommending the $30,000 one rather than the drive-by that I still don't know what the price is to the city, except per property?
So, Public Works Department reviewed other communities that have HydroCorp, and they're satisfied with the work they do. BS&I, there's not that many communities in the city. We're only aware of 2 in the city that are the state that use this company. And Public Works Department just thought that HydroCorp was a little better company to work with. So my question to BS&I was, you're charging $15.95 a report for data entry. Is that for every property you drive by, you're doing a $16 report plus a $20 inspection fee? So actually it's $36, the way I read this, for each inspection that they do drive by. So it's $40 a house.
How many residential units could they bill us for? I can't use my cell phone in city council to use my calculator to figure out what the cost is to the city compared to the 30,000, whatever it is.
Well, there's about 1,500 houses in the city. So if everybody did $40 or 60, I say it was 15, $40, it'd be $60,000 right there to do the whole city. Plus commercial will be extra above that. Again, this would be a 2-year contract. We can bring it back to city council after 2 years, or if it's not working, we can look at terminating and go to a different company.
After 2 years, we have to renew it again?
We'll have to do it every residence has to be inspected every 6 years. And then commercial, they're on a tighter schedule every 2 years, I think.
So are we thinking we can inspect all of our residents in the 2-year period, or no?
Depends on their manpower and their help.
Your Honor, at
Yes.
my office in Grand Haven, we have to be inspected once a year. And the guy that comes in, we always laugh about it because he never finds any of them that have failed, any of those Febco backflow preventers that have failed. It's just ridiculous.
Your Honor, this is talking about cross connection,
Yes.
okay? Which does involve the backflow connectors, but it also, a cross connection deal, if you walk into your bathroom, the distance between the drain and the faucet has to be X amount of inches to be in compliant with it. That's a cross connection. Any place where wastewater could possibly get into a freshwater source, that's a cross connection or potential cross connection. So to do a proper inspection, they would have to go in and check for the cross connections. Would have to be any place where there is a freshwater source that is near a wastewater source. If you look at, that's what, you look at the cross connection standard. And so if they do it properly, they would go into our houses, into our kitchens, into our bathrooms, and any place where we have utility rooms, any place where there is a drain and a freshwater source. That's why I'm saying, it's not just the people that have irrigation, you know, their lawn irrigation, or a sump pump, you know, discharge. That's my concern right now. And yeah, they do talk about the backflows, but they also talk about the cross connection. And the cross connection is, like I said, would involve a lot more to be properly inspected. That has to be done by the housing inspector before anybody can move in, and so that's why it's an intrusion. And I think for the city, we'd be better off just having in our compliance the same as we do. Craig, right now we don't have an outside commercial company inspecting our businesses, right?
So for a cross connection, we send them a letter that they have to have it certified by a certified mechanical or plumbing inspector, state registered, and they have to send that form back to us.
Okay. So like at our office, we have Bill's Plumbing come in because they're one of the few people that have got the state licensed backflow preventer specialist that's paid all their fees and everything to handle it all. Yeah.
Excuse me.
But I'm thinking if we had, perhaps we could get we're paying on our DPW already money for being wastewater specialists and water specialists, and why not cross connection specialists? So they could do the inspections as well. Something we could look at.
DPW does not have the manpower to do the residential. That's how we want to contract with the company.
What happens if a resident refuses the inspection, Craig?
I'm not sure on the answer to that.
Because we pay them for a visit. If I refuse an inspection, the city still gets billed for the inspection.
My guess is that they talk about rewriting the city's cross connection ordinance. So they'll put something in there that if they're not allowed access, then the water could be shut off until it's inspected. That's correct.
I'm putting the horse before the cart, aren't we? If we don't have the ordinance to enforce it yet.
Help us draft an ordinance for that.
Do we turn the water off for people that don't pay their bills?
Bills unpaid, we roll it to their tax bill.
So do we have the capability at all houses to,
I'm sorry?
capability at all the houses to turn off their water?
Yes,
Okay, we know where all the valves are.
yes. There might be some issues with some of these, fourplex condominiums. Some of those, when they were built, they only have one meter in them. So, you know, you're talking 4 families in there.
Ooh. Well, seems like a lot of money here. Okay. Any further discussion here? Tim made a motion to not approve it. So does anyone want to support his not approving?
Your Honor, I'll support.
Okay. So let's tackle that first. Motion and support to not approve it. Any other further discussion on this? Yes.
Not have one, the state is considering the city and being deficient. We have to do something, yes.
Your Honor,
Yes.
in this contract, it says HydroCorp will provide vacuum breakers or anti-frost hose bib vacuum breakers to facilities as required. Is that saying if they find someone that is out of compliance, they'll just install one?
They'll provide it, so my understanding, if they walk by and they see a hose connected to the faucet without a vacuum breaker, they'll give the resident one.
Not charging the resident?
That's correct.
Okay, Craig, do we have the money in the budget for this?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's do a roll call vote on this. Any more discussion?
A yes vote is to deny.
Correct. That's the motion on the table right now. Motion and support to deny it. So if you vote yes, that's to deny it. Let's do a roll call on this first.
Councilmember Montgomery,
No.
Councilmember Sias,
No.
Councilmember Murdoch,
No.
Councilmember Kate,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Donnell,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson,
Yes.
Mayor Blease,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay. Moving on, 7D. Discussion, take action if appropriate, approve an economic development service contract with the Chamber of Commerce for the period October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2025. And to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the contract. Payment 2022 to 2023, $7,469.33. Elizabeth, do you want to come up to the podium to discuss anything with us before we? Okay, yeah, come on up. Just state your name and address for the record. Okay. Tim, you had a question in general or for Elizabeth?
Just a general question. This is a continuation of our current contract with a, I believe, minor increase. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just the rate of inflation, each year applied, and I think
Okay.
about a 2% rate of inflation.
So it's already in the budget. We're already paying for it. It's just the increase.
Yeah.
So that's, okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Elizabeth at all?
Your Honor,
Yes.
has there been interaction between you and our EDC board that we've just created here?
I am on the board.
You are on the
Yes,
board,
I
okay,
am.
very good.
Good question.
And it looks like City Grand Haven, Grand Haven Township, Spring Lake Township, Spring Lake Village are all participating with this. And then we pay 7% of that total cost, so that gives us our numbers.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Economic Development Services contract with the Chamber of Commerce for the period October 1, 2022 through September 30, 2025, and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the contract. Payment 2022, 2023, $7,469.33.
Or,
Motion and support. Further discussion?
One thing, Your Honor.
Yes.
We've had very little economic growth in Ferrysburg specifically over the past few years. Can you explain the essentially the benefit to our taxpayers for that $7,469?
Yeah, so, you know, if a business may not be growing and expanding, however, the businesses are taking advantage of some grants, and we're helping them get the grants, right? You guys got, through the COVID grants that came through the state of Michigan, there were some businesses who got some significant dollars in here, and we were able to help them with that. There's many ways that we're helping, you know, with, we're helping with the region, not necessarily just a city of Ferrysburg business. We're helping with regional issues like transportation, with, you know, finding industrial land, with affordable housing. There's so many issues that, you know, we are helping. And, you know, there are businesses here who have a projection to expand, and I've been in contact with them. And so when the time is right, I'm going to be helping them looking at creating a district and doing a tax abatement. But the time's just not right now. So there's many different things going on.
Are you able to give us any examples of some like big wins you've or the chamber's had lately?
Big wins. Let's see. I happen to print off the reports that I send in once a quarter. Let me see what I have. Like right now is the afflicted business relief grant program, and so I'm trying to help area businesses go and apply for that. The state of Michigan has some ARPA funds for that, $409 million, and so what businesses can take advantage of that? There's these calculations that they do decline in revenue, so I'm helping them do that. But that's not a win, right? So that's just active. Let's see. You know, another thing, it's not a win, but I did help the Verplank Dock Company. We were going up for a FEMA grant. They were competitive grants, and so working with them, we put a lot of hours into getting all the paperwork in place for them. So we did that. Wins. I have some information about, yeah, so $51,000 was given to 4 area businesses here for the MEDC Small Business Survival Grant. And so we were on that, I was on that team that was helping to, we were gathering all the applications, reviewing all the applications, scoring all the applications, and then this is for all of Ottawa and Allegan counties. And so then, you know, the area businesses were able to get some funds, and so that's one where I can actually put some dollars to it. So hopefully that's helpful, kind of put a perspective to it.
Thank you for serving on our new EDC commission.
Yes. Of course.
Okay, any other questions for Elizabeth? Any further discussion? We have a motion support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Okay, moving on. 7E, discussion and take action if appropriate to schedule work session as a regular agenda item March 21st. There was something I saw here. Oh. City budget already? 2022 to 2023. Okay, anything else for the work session?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I would like to have put on there also the burning permit ordinance. We've had some issues with it, even though it's pretty clear cut what you can and can't do. We've had some arguments with some residents that have gone out and burned and said, well, I was told I could do this. Or the city does it, why can't I?
Ooh.
So I would like to get some, look at maybe getting some clarification and making some areas of it more specific. So we won't run into those problems when we get unauthorized burns requests to the fire department.
Okay, anything else to add for the work session?
Your Honor,
Yes.
so we could hit the ground running for that work, for the burn permit. Can you find out, Craig, what the neighboring communities have for permits? And if ours has got major deviations?
Anything else for the work session? I can't really think of anything. Do we need a motion for this? Looks like we do. That's what it says. It's a motion to take action to put on a work session for next meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Support.
motion support, further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Number 8, public comments. Nobody's here. Number 9, report, city manager, Craig.
No report?
All right, city council members, Debbie? Oh, for beautification, okay. All right, Jerry? All right, Tim?
Tomorrow we will be having the organizational meeting for the Board of Review. There will be no public
Input.
input at that point. That's just the organizational, who's gonna be there, who's gonna be in charge and doing what, and looking at the approving the tax roll. Then next Monday and Tuesday, we'll be hearing appeals to the tax assessments. And I will also be attending the MML Lansing Conference on, well, I won't be able to attend Tuesday, but Wednesday. And I'm looking forward to that because there's a lot of information that I got when I last Thursday, right? Attended the Transportation Technologies and Infrastructure Committee meeting through MML, and we had a lot of things that were discussed. And once I can get back into my email, I will send everybody a link to that because there's a lot of good information and a lot of interesting. We discussed the state budget. This year, we're going to be getting a 10%. We're on track to get a 10% revenue sharing. I don't say it for certain until it's actually in our pockets, the city's pockets, not mine. There's some tax cut discussions, municipal plan grant programs. One of the things that I'm hoping to do is Wednesday morning meet with our state legislators and at a breakfast that they have at the conference. And one of the major talking points will be the revenue sharing. The state of Michigan has a multi-billion-dollar surplus, and one of the things that we will be discussing is trying to get more of the money that is due us through the revenue sharing. We've been for years undercut many times, and one of the penalties that we I consider the penalty is because we are a fiscally responsible community, we don't get as much back as what some of the other communities get. So we just want to get what is due us. This year there's a 10% increase with 5% that will be continuous increase and 5% of one-time payment. It brings us to the 2011 level of income and 2008, something 2008, something like that. We'd like to, since all the other departments are being brought back up to their pre-cut levels, we'd like to get the cities brought up back up to speed as well. So the more encouragement we can do, if you want to contact, make sure your state legislators know that if you're in favor of that. The short-term rental has reared its ugly head again. There's also another thing that perhaps on a future work session would be automated delivery devices. Automated delivery devices, basically unmanned robots, drones that will be using our non-motorized pathways, bike paths, and sidewalks to make deliveries. Most of the people at this meeting were dead set against this because of they didn't want robots roaming down our sidewalks. That's in the city of Detroit. Ooh, they got robots walking down riding down their sidewalks.
They can check for cross connections.
Yes.
While they're at it.
Yeah. We discussed some other bills that a couple that we opposed. Most of them we're just kind of looking at, just monitoring. We either oppose, monitor, or support. And a couple that we opposed, most of them right now we're just monitoring. One that is strongly opposed is, again, the short-term rentals. That is another definite government intrusion. There are some stormwater legislation that's is before our legislatures. There's like I said, I will, as soon as I can, email this to you with the state budget. And there's a lot of grants out there that are available that we might look at taking advantage of that. And end of report. One other thing. I just wanted to double check. They talked about having a requirement for a redundant power source on our pumping stations across the state. We do have backups, right? Our pumping station. Okay, so that really won't affect us. That we're in compliance. And I encourage anybody out there in the cyber world that's listening to us, if you have any input on any of these, please let me know, because I am your representative to these committees, and I would like any input anybody can give me, so I can go there and back in. Thank you. End of report.
Okay, Rich?
The only comment I have is regarding short-term rentals. The city, we already have a short-term rental ordinance that fits our city well. Local control is best. Mr. O'Donnell, are you saying the state is going to try to legislate that on the state level and pull it away from us? They know better.
Yes, they
Unbelievable.
Going into a lame duck session. The State Realtors Association is once again, even though they have repeatedly been told we are not interested and to leave us alone, they are once again trying to take state control of our local business.
Thank you. End of report.
Okay, Will?
Yeah, so we met Craig and I met with the NORA board last week, I think, and discussed mainly the millage that we'll be doing later this year, putting on the ballot later this year. We discussed different alternatives. It wasn't passed last year, so just discussing what needs to be done to have it passed this year. I believe it passed in Ferrysburg, correct? So I don't see any, foresee any issues. Hopefully not. It's a great cause that provides recreation for all ages. So I'm optimistic about at least our community. Other than that, just one question for Craig. Craig, do you have the quotes that we received in the past for new microphones? Can you send those to me, please? I would just like to revisit this at some point. We've got a lot of complaints from residents that can't hear us, and I was looking online today. I have, 2 speakers in my conference room, and you can hear me whisper from across the room. So maybe there's alternatives now that COVID hit and everybody had to work from home. Maybe there's been some technology improvements that we can capitalize on, but I know you can't hear a lot of us on the video, especially if we're sitting back. And that's just kind of crazy for 2022. So that's all. End of report. Thank you.
Okay, Bill?
No report.
Okay, I just have one thing here. Oh, this Thursday, the Chamber of Commerce is actually having their business after hours bash, Freedom Boat Club, just in town here, Pine Street, 5 to 7. End of report.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Kara for coming out and sharing with us as well. Thanks, Your Honor.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay. We're done.
If anybody would like to see our revenue sharing for the last few years, I've got some copies here, or you can go to Save My City through the MML, and they also will.